If she is caught by her animus, it's really not her fault. I mean, this is an autonomous figure, just like in men. If we're caught by our anima, it's not your fault. These are autonomous factors that need to be worked on. Hey guys, welcome back to Dream Analytica. Doing this will significantly improve your understanding and relationships with women. Firstly, it will help you understand how a woman's psychology works. And the second part is it will help women understand how their psychology works. And doing this will improve your relationships with them. So the animus, how do you identify the animus in a woman? Let's say your partner or your girlfriend, your spouse. How do you go about identifying when they are in their animus? Normally, what happens in relationships, the animus comes out as a defense mechanism for women. So she becomes more assertive, she becomes more rational, more cold, and you can instinctually feel these behaviors come on, though you don't exactly know if it's actually her or if it's not. Most of the time, she'll get hooked on ideas and convictions that may not necessarily have a solid foundation upon which they are constructed. So they could easily fall into the trap of believing what was heard instead of actually doing the research and gaining the depth of knowledge to find out the real truth behind those words. It may or may not be true, but she hasn't done the amount of work to really understand if it is in fact true. And you can see this happening nowadays in social media, where an idea is spread and instantaneously they believe it. They instantly acknowledge it to be as a truth, when in fact it may not necessarily be. And that is usually an animus conviction. The animus takes hold of these collective ideas and makes it seem as if it were her own, but it's not, because what normally happens is, in most cases, not all, but most cases, it will contradict their internal feelings. So let's say you're in a relationship with a woman and her friends are telling her all these negative things about the relationship, like you shouldn't be treated this way, or you need to leave him, like the way he's treating you is not right in a general sense. They don't have the full picture, and they get hooked on those collective ideas, and she listens to them and really thinks she believes them. But in the actual relationship, there's two sides of the story, and it will normally contradict her feelings, which her feelings are telling her the relationship is very unique and it's very nuanced, and there are some generalizations involved in all relationships, but that particular relationship that she's in is completely unique. It's a fingerprint. Their experiences together is completely unique. You can't put a general solution onto a unique problem. It will not work. When she's caught in those ideas, it's really difficult because she's now with the collective mindset, and it's very hard for you as a man in a relationship with a woman that is caught in that situation to try to convince her that it's not real, because then she's just going to think you're controlling her. It's very difficult. But what you could do is express yourself with genuine feelings. This is why it's so important for a man to understand his feminine side, because only when he really understands his feeling aspect, which for most men resides in the unconscious, we're not as in tune with our eros as much as our logos, is you understand how to express your feelings genuinely. And first of all, it'll help you filter out manipulative women. The second aspect is, if you're in a relationship and you are able to express your feelings, now you can develop a genuine emotional connection with her, because the feelings are very nuanced. So you'll be able to pick up very nuanced things about your partner if you have developed your feeling function. And it's not an easy thing to do. This is part of the integration with your anima, which is the feminine aspect within a man's psychology. I'm not saying that you need to first develop your anima before you get into a relationship. You could easily just as well develop your relationship alongside your anima. Developing your anima can coincide with developing a relationship. They can grow together. in fact. And once you're in a relationship with a partner, that's actually one of the best ways you can learn about your anima, because she can help bring her out in you in a safe space, because you don't want to be in a work environment and expressing yourself with all these deep feelings that will bubble up to the surface and then try to understand it that way. The better way is to do it with a partner that you trust and that you love, and that won't judge you, because some of these feelings, they're not all rainbows and sunshine. They can be ugly and really dark, and as a man, you can really express yourself fully if you're in a trusting, committed relationship with a woman. I say it's really important to understand your inner feminine side, because you need to be in a good relationship with yourself first and foremost. Your partner is not going to resolve your internal conflicts for you. I feel like that's what most of us do, myself included, try to do, is to heal myself with a relationship, relying completely on my partner to heal my emotional feeling side, to help me discover that. But that puts too much dependency on your partner, and she can't handle that, and she won't handle that. As a matter of fact, they won't, because she's got her own internal conflicts to resolve too. And you, as the logos principle for her, is sort of her connection to the spiritual enlightenment, so to speak. The animus is another word for spirit. So you have to be a positive influence for her animus to develop positively as well. And again, that's not to say that she has to develop her animus in a relationship. It is just far more efficient and appropriate, because she has a real world example of what a masculine is. And sometimes the image of her inner animus and her man can coalesce or superimpose. That can be a positive or negative thing. The reason I say it's positive is because as long as the man is able to withhold the projection of her animus, then all expectations are met. But he is not a god. The negative aspect is he's not immortal, he's not divine. He has imperfections, he has flaws, he has feelings. He's not going to be this perfect picture forever or meet her all of her expectations. This is where the checkbox comes from, by the way. Women have this checklist. It's because they have the internal ideal form of a masculine figure in their heads, which they think is actually their own. It's not. It's the animus image. Remember, for women, the negative animus acts like a jealous lover. He wants to keep her all to himself, completely alone. Whenever she falls in love, he's going to create internal conflicts for her that make her feel like her partner doesn't love her, or give her these terribly negative ideas and insecurities about herself or the relationship, or some sort of betrayal that her man will do. Usually this appears in dreams for a woman. The animus plays a lot of tricks on women whenever she is in a loving relationship. And this is probably, I'm not going to say it is the reason, but it probably is one of the reasons why the divorce rate is quite high. It's all due to psychology, really. And the animus, again, is just a definition for the masculine aspect within a woman's psychology. So we're just trying to identify and define what the hell the animus is anyways in a woman's psychology. And we're doing that through behaviors, through dreams, through words. It's really important for men to develop your internal anima, which is your eros feeling side. Equally, it's very important for a woman to develop her animus. And again, like I mentioned, it's really a positive way to develop your anima and animus if you're in a relationship with the opposite sex. If you're in a relationship with the same gender as yourself, instead of the anima and animus being developed, you'll be developing your shadows, because your shadow is the same gender as you in dreams. That is depicted in dreams. But if you really want to expand and really integrate your internal opposite, is by being in a relationship with the opposite sex. So developing your anima and animus really gets you to that next level, which is the self. And again, that's not to say that you need to be in a relationship. I think I would say for men, it would be much easier to identify their anima if they're alone, because men have logos, so it's easier for us to dissect and discern different parts of our psychology, as opposed to women who have eros in the forefront and logos in their unconscious. So it's very difficult for women to dissect and distinguish if their logos is in their unconscious. It's like you're trying to dissect something or identify something, but that identification process is in the unconscious. It's insanely difficult. This is why it's much easier for women to identify her animus if she's in a trusting and loving relationship with the opposite sex. It's not necessary, but it is a lot easier. You could do it with a therapist too. To get a man's help to help you identify your animus is crucial. It's very important for your psychology and your psychological development. Learning how your animus behaves. What is known in Jungian psychology is the animus has a lot of animus opinions. So you can see this all the time with women who have these very broad, generalized opinions of matters that are very impersonal. That's one really distinct way you as a man can identify when a woman is caught by her animus. You really want to help her understand that she is loved irrespectively, regardless of her fluctuations, because I think it's your job as a man to support her, to protect her, not just externally, but internally as well. If she is caught by her animus, it's really not her fault. I mean, this is an autonomous figure, just like in men. If we're caught by our anima, it's not your fault. These are autonomous factors that need to be worked on. And once we have a good relationship internally with our opposites, these attacks will occur less. These possessions will occur less. So you can't really blame a woman, particularly in today's world where it's so chaotic, that her animus would naturally take over. And the reason it takes over is because it's trying to protect her, essentially. It's trying to protect her from the pain, from getting her feelings hurt, because women, when they express their feelings and they get shunned for it, that's painful. That's really painful. And so the animus will take over and become this complete opposite and bar her off from the world, give her this cold-blooded demeanor so as to protect the inner feelings, because it's very painful. And there's just so much pain and suffering in the world that it's only common sense that she needs a defense mechanism, because what else does she have? For men, we have brute force to defend ourselves with. We have strength and intellect. For women, they have feelings and intuition, and they need to protect that. So if a real man isn't going to do it for her, she has to do it for herself. And this is where the hyper-independent woman comes in. She is hyper-independent and almost acting like a man. Is, I'm not going to say definitively, but you can easily see that that woman is very in her masculine energy, and you could call that an animus possession. She has just been possessed for such a long time, it's almost become her identity. It almost has taken over her. I mean, you can see that with Elizabeth Holmes, the CEO of Theranos, just completely, it's very scary just looking at her eyes, and you could see what the animus possession looks like. I mean, she literally, I think her inner animus quite literally was Steve Jobs. So another thing you could do to help your partner, your woman, identify her animus is ask her about her dreams. Women are more in tune with the spiritual world, with the unconscious. As a fact, women are much more connected to and open to these ideas. And if you really want to understand her psychology, in analytical or Jungian psychology, the main thing they look at, or we look at, is dreams. And dreams reveal the person's psychology. I've talked about this a lot in all my other videos. So if you really want to understand the depths of your partner and build a genuine connection, ask her about her dreams. And the dreams will tell you and resolve any problems in the relationship if there are any. I mean, you don't need to do that if your relationship is well, but most of us do suffer from this animus-anima problem, myself included, and it really, really improves the relationship significantly if you talk about each other's dreams. Because let's say that you have an argument and your partner, your woman, has this really negative dream about you where you are running away from her, cheating on her, or doing something horrible that hurts her feelings. in the dream, and it's not actually about you. But if you don't recognize that, she's going to blame you for it. There are these clips all over social media where the woman gets mad at the man just because she had a bad dream about him. If you really understand the concept of the animus here and see that is the negative animus playing tricks on her, then you could say, look, that's not me. That's your internal masculine that is trying to play tricks on you to make you leave me so that he can have you all to himself. I mean, that's just insanely powerful if you could do that for your partner. It completely relaxes her finally because she knows it's not, I mean, if the relationship is good and you love each other and care about each other, then no, you're there for her. You're not going to leave her. And you did that all just by looking at her dream, because now you can identify the animus. Once you do that, once she is able to do that, it's not a joke. The animus turns into something positive, just like the shadow. Once he is recognized, he becomes more positive. The animus possession becomes less. And then you now have a visual representation of what the animus looks like, a personification. And what happens when you personify something is you know what it looks like and how it behaves. So then you could easily use that image whenever the woman, I'm speaking to the woman now, is whenever you're in a state of stress or in a situation where that requires you to be more assertive and confident, you can pull him out. You can make him take over, like sort of, I don't want to say possess, but you could let him take over, take the wheel, and become extremely powerful. And you can see that there's a lot of women who have integrated their animus and are able to utilize him so that he is this, I like to think of it as a queen's guard. Like the inner animus acts like a queen's guard to help her when she needs, but not take over her. I can't stress enough the importance of understanding dreams. If you're in a relationship with your partner, really talk about your dreams, because that will help you significantly understand each other's internal dynamic. And when you do that, you're improving your internal relationship, which will only improve the external relationship. And I mean, that's the major work that we all have to do. So our internal union will help our external unions. I will continue to talk in more depth about these concepts in Jungian psychology. I really want you to think of it not as Jungian psychology or Freudian psychology. These are just names that we use to define the different aspects of our psychology. We could easily have named it something else, but Jung came up with these terms for a very specific reason. If you do enough of his readings, then you'll understand why he called the animus spirit and the anima soul, and logos and eros. There'll be different terminologies for it in different psychological practices. I'm using the Jungian terminology here because for me, it's a really descriptive and illustrative way of understanding these very difficult and elusive psychological concepts within ourselves. It's very difficult for myself to, how do I visualize, because I'm a very visual person, how do I visualize these concepts? How do I build the framework as an INTP? How do I see what this framework looks like? You know, the way Jung has put it, and I think mainly because he was an INTP as well, or maybe even an INFJ, but he had a really good visual way of describing and illustrating these very complex topics. And still, even then, his work is very complex, and we have to filter it and dilute it so that it's more accessible to everyone. That's exactly what I have done too in my application that you can download on the App Store. Is it simplifies some of the complex terminologies of Jung's work into an application that you can fit in your pocket. And it goes over typology, it goes over the animus, the anima, and how to individuate, how to interpret dreams. It has a whole section on how to interpret your dreams, because I really, in Jungian psychology, it is the most important thing in Jungian therapy, is analyzing the dream. And the reason why it's so important is because the dream is in itself the prognosis and diagnosis of the dreamer's psychology. It will provide the problem and the solution of the dreamer's psychology. And it will also identify, personify all the disparate aspects of that dreamer's psychology as well. All of that happens through dreams. Dreams also give us meaning, because if you are a diligent recorder of your dreams over a long period of time, you can see this epic journey going on through your dreams. It's almost like you're living this other life that you live when you're sleeping, which we spend almost half our lives doing anyway. So it really brings your life into fullness, because you now won't see sleep as a waste of time, because you're living this other half by recording your dreams, where you see this epic journey going on in the unconscious. And in Jungian psychology, it's also quite common that we know that our inner reality is actually the real reality. That is for another video. It's not something that I could explain in a few seconds. There's also a really good question that you can ask about dreams, which is, because the main controversy with dreams is that it is meaningless and they're just dreams. Okay, so one of the things you can ask is, if you have a dream and you remember it, how do you prove that to anyone? How do you prove that you had that dream? You can't. It's all subjective. It all happened within you, but it did happen because you remembered it. The images were there, the feelings were there. It happened. It's real. Only you know that it's real. That is pretty much the nature of psychology. It's very difficult to experiment to create a schematic approach to psychology, but just as the outer world is real, your dreams are real. And just like our body has functions, like our immune system, our dreams have a specific function too. So thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one. I'm going to go into further detail about the animus and the anima in relationships. The next one will be about how do I identify the anima in a man as a woman, so that you can help your partner integrate his internal feminine and build stronger, better, healthier relationships with each other.